Welcome to Classic Game Room. Before I get started with today's review, let me kick this video off by answering a question that many of you have asked me. Mark, what's better, the Nintendo Switch or the Colecovision? This is a very stupid question, and let me show you why. Alright, now you don't normally see this in the videos, but here's my power strip in my workshop for my game systems, and this is the AC adapter for the Nintendo Switch. This is the AC adapter for the Colecovision. Which game system is better? Which one has a bigger AC adapter? By that logic, the Colecovision is the greatest game system in the universe, and the Colecovision is a great game system. I'm not sure if it's better than the Vectrex, but the Vectrex doesn't even run on power, it runs on fear. Let's get started with the review of Choplifter. You merely plug the Vectrex in for effect. That's how they got around all the FCC laws back in the day. It doesn't actually need power, try it. Just be afraid of it. It will run. It's like they took a page out of the Magnavox Odyssey 2 book. It's not Choplifter, it's Choplifter! Exclamation points. Broderbund's Choplifter. Broderbund's apostrophe S. Copyright 1982, Dan Gorlin, 1984, Coleco. Skill level 2. Woo! What you do in this game is you save people by shooting them with a helicopter. This is the number of hostages who have been terminated by the enemy or by me landing on them. This is the number of hostages in my helicopter, and this is the number of ungrateful hostages that I've saved. Everyone ready? Good. So, I'm gonna kill the tanks and not land on any of the squishy hostages. Everyone in! Come on in. I have in-flight Wi-Fi. You should all be very comfortable. You modern 21st century ungrateful, untitled hostages. Now blow up the stupid tanks and pile on in. Everybody pile on in. It's a good time. This plays really well with a good controller. Oh, the helicopter is full once again. You crashed a plane into my helicopter. It's like an insurance nightmare. Technically, shooting all of the hostages is the wrong way to play this game. What you want to do is save them in Choplifter and fly them back to your post office or whatever that building is to ship them home, I think. I think that's what you do in Choplifter. You are flying for the US Postal Service. I used to play this game on the 7800, and I like it, but when you dig into it, it's actually only good in small doses, because it's not a typical arcade-style game. You're not playing for points, you're trying to save a certain number of hostages, and like, the tanks are always going to blow a few up. Even if you don't land on any of them, I think the tanks are always going to get a couple, but basically you fly out into the battlefield, shoot the barracks, unleash the hostages, land next to them, try not to land on them, as much fun as it is. Try not to land on them. They all pile into your helicopter, you can only carry 16 at a time, fly them back to the post office, send them home, and then get a few more. So if you can save all 64 hostages, apparently you're doing a great job. I have not decapitated a single person with my helicopter yet today, but the day is young. Okay, now, I'm unable to haul more than 16 hostages at once. So I fill up my helicopter and I drop them off. None of them say thank you. Should fly away and blow up the looks like a 1970s library. I don't know what that is. Can I blow that up? No, very solid construction. The enemy's trying to bomb me. Oh, there we go. Everyone on the helicopter. Exact change only. Oh, I shot down the plane. I'm over here. I'm trying not to land on any of you. You make it so difficult. There they are. People waiting. Everybody in. Everybody into the helicopter. Come on in. It's like the party bus with a spinning blade. Let's go. Screw you. Everybody in. Everybody in. Come on in. One at a time. Let's go. Oh, I've crushed a hostage. Why am I penalized for the hostage's stupidity? That's this game's greatest flaw. I've just crushed another one. Crushing a hostage is bad, but crashing with a helicopter full of hostages is even worse. That's how you really rack up points in the left column, which is, I think, bad. Ultimately, it's always game over for everyone. You can only shoot the tanks when you're facing forward, and it's a fun game. It does look good on the Colecovision for a 1984 era game, and I've got a classic game room shout out and thank you going to my man Mark from East Meadow, New York. Thank you for sending this to the show a while ago. It's Choplifter. Chop, 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 Choplifter, chopping Choplifter. Which is on a wide variety of game systems and on your old computer. Save the hostages and ship them home via media mail to save money. What's the time? It's Zaxxon time! Zaxxon! For the Colecovision, the mighty Colecovision, delivering arcade-quality graphics at home. And nowhere is that better represented than right here in Zaxxon. While we may be used to stunning arcade-quality visuals and gameplay at home these days, it's the norm. Back in 1982, it was not that common. Many of us were familiar with the Atari 2600's version of arcade games, which frequently did not live up to the originals. Those fortunate enough to have a Colecovision, on the other hand, had a massive library of arcade-quality games to choose from, and really good ones, like Zaxxon. I'm constantly impressed by how good the Colecovision is for a 1982 game console. If I had known back in the day, I'd have asked my parents for one, and they'd have said no. But I would have tried. Fly through the force field, and get the jet! Yes! All with arcade-quality performance. Like other Colecovision games, there's 4 difficulty settings. I'm playing on difficulty 2, which is actually a bit easy. The fuel gauge really does not deplete very quickly. You have to blow up the gas cans or fuel storage cylinders to continue flying. The harder difficulty settings make the gameplay more like the arcade machine. Zaxxon is a really cool game and was extremely impressive back in the day because of the perspective. There were a lot of spaceship shooters like Xevious and Defender, but Zaxxon looks like Zaxxon. And you're not just moving left and right to dodge enemy fire, you're also moving up and down, and you have to fly through those force field things. It's just a really cool game. And you can easily find Zaxxon for numerous old school and modern game consoles. It's available as an extra in the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for PS3 and 360. Don't try to play chicken with those jets, you'll lose every time. Let's increase the difficulty and try again. It's been a long time since I've seen the arcade machine, but this ColecoVision version just delivers the arcade quality visuals, which is a large part of what makes Zaxxon cool. I also love the name, Zaxxon. Few games have such a great title, and it's always easy to find in a list because it starts with a Z, it's at the end. Try this at home, speak the titles of numerous video games and then follow it with Zaxxon, and see what stands out, like Call of Duty, Super Mario Bros., Gran Turismo, Gears of War, Resistance 3, Zaxxon! If You've got to watch out for a lot of things in this game, like the missiles shooting out from the ground, gun turrets, accidentally flying into fuel cylinders, which is easier to do than you might think. But I really needed gas. Bam! Explode. Zaxxon! Yeah, it's just fun to say. And it's also fun to play. On the Colecovision. Are they still releasing games for the Colecovision? They should be. Because look how good it is. I'm playing Zaxxon with the Atari 7800 gamepad, because the actual ColecoVision controllers are an acquired taste that I don't really care for. You do need at least one to plug into the second player slot to start the game, because you need the keypad. Zaxxon plays quite well with the 7800 controller, the gamepad, not the actual crappy joystick controller. And if you're a ColecoVision collector, I highly recommend this game. And no, it will not cost very much to collect. It's an awesome game on an amazing game system. It's Zaxxon for the Colecovision! Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room, where I have an extremely fun game on the Colecovision for you. This is Carnival. This is a Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney pointing finger, which has nothing to do with Carnival except it's fun to point. Number 1. It's the #1 version of Carnival because the other versions that I've played just aren't as good as this one. Look at the sounds, hear the visuals, it's Carnival. On the ColecoVision, the dominant version of Carnival, except for maybe the arcade machine, which I've never seen. The Atari 2600 version of Carnival is kind of disappointing, but still fun, and I have it for the Intellivision, but it doesn't play on Intellivision 2, which just pisses me off. Because I rock the Intellivision 2, but I rock the ColecoVision even harder. Because it's better. This time I'm using the Super Action controller, delivering Super Action in Carnival. Shoot that polar bear right in the ass. Come here. However, my ColecoVision has a problem, and that problem is that the Player 1 controller port no longer works. So I'm playing as Player 2, which is kind of annoying in Carnival because you have to wait until Player 1 loses all of their bullets when the ducks come down and eat them. Anyway, the game rocks because it's super fun and very challenging. This is based on Sega's 1980 arcade machine, where your objective is simple. Don't drink too much at the carnival because the drinks are free when you come to see the bearded lady. Or is that a different game? That's more of a circus, isn't it? I hate circuses because I hate clowns. Fortunately, there's no clowns in Carnival. However, disappointingly, there's no clowns that you can shoot. Instead, you'll be firing at the targets moving back and forth across the screen, which include ducks, owls, and cute, harmless little bunny rabbits. As well as those spinning pipes in the middle of this screen, which you must clear off in order to finish the round before you run out of ammunition. It's harder than it sounds. So aim carefully, and don't miss anything, ever. I need some ammo, badly. This version of Carnival has the fun Carnival music, and the controls work pretty well whether you're using the Super Action controller or the standard ColecoVision controller. You score more points for the targets on the top row, and occasionally you'll even get some bonus points or extra bullets on the left side of the screen if you can shoot that thing. What makes the game really challenging is clearing off everything without running out of ammo. because it's tough to hit those pipes. It doesn't look like it would be that hard, but you've got to shoot just to the left or just to the right of the green box. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially when there's ducks and owls and bunny rabbits in front of your bullets. I like Carnival. I think it's got a fun arcade-style risk versus reward system. Do you go for more targets and more points? Or do you conserve your ammo as much as possible and just shoot at what you really need to? It's fairly easy to find this game out there online affordably for your Colecovision, and I have to give a classic game room shout out and thank you to George from McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. Just outside of Pittsburgh. Yin's better be watching this review with a cold iron and north for sales, George. You can't stop the fun. You can't stop the Carnival on ColecoVision. Highly recommended. We're out of ammo. Damn it. Welcome to Classic Game Room. You would think that with a power supply this big, the force would be strong with the ColecoVision version of Star Wars, the arcade game, but you would be mistaken. This is very Jar Jar. While this is the most Lando power supply ever created, look at this thing. It's bigger than my head. No, the menus don't even do that. This is the most half-assed version of Star Wars, the arcade game that I've ever played. I'm so disappointed in Parker Brothers. Was there a whole room of Greedo Shoot's first t-shirt wearing programmers working on this game? Did they not actually play the original Star Wars arcade game? Did they not see the movie? The Death Star explosion has to be the most disappointing part of this. You blow up the Death Star and it's like the screen blinks once. That's the most anticlimactic Death Star explosion I've ever seen. This is the first time in history that I've seen the Atari 2600 version of a game wipe the floor with the ColecoVision. Even the dog agrees with me. Go get him. Kill Jar Jar. Kill! I think that's like the UPS guy bark, because you can tell if it's like UPS versus the Postal Service, they get different barks. If you don't believe me, go and watch my review of this game for Atari 2600. The ColecoVision is typically far more powerful than the 2600. In fact, the 5200 version of Star Wars the arcade game is most impressive. Certainly most impressive compared to this. My only hope, the only hope, my only theory here, I think I just stepped on an ugnut. My only theory here is that by 1984, the market was so bad that Parker Brothers was like, yeah, let's just shovel it out and try to recoup some of our costs. Because I think the ColecoVision was discontinued in 1985 anyway. So, sadly, even though you know the ColecoVision is like the best console from 1982 that isn't the Vectrex, it received a horrible version of this incredible game. Yeah! Oh, come on! And who do I have to blame for this? My friend Mark in East Meadow, New York, for sending it to the show. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark, for sending this to the show. I'm just so disappointed because I love the Colecovision, but they couldn't even add a Death Star explosion to this game. The Atari 2600 version of Star Wars the arcade game has a Death Star explosion. The Colecovision one does not. What do you do in Star Wars the arcade game? It's like a shooter on rails where you just shoot TIE fighters and fireballs on the tops of those towers and you fly through the trench, sort of, just avoiding the things. It doesn't matter because this game is filled with disappointment. This would be like Jar Jar Binks. Well, it is like Jar Jar Binks. Never, there is no like Jar. Someone just send me back to 1983. I'm sick of the future. I just want to go back to 1983 and stay there. Done for the day. Now I'm pissed. Where's my Van Halen? Someone give me a beer. The game is Cosmic Avenger. How's that for a red title? This is a 1982 release for the Colecovision based on the 1981 arcade machine. Cosmic Avenger is regarded as the first continuous, horizontally scrolling spaceship shooter. And as you can see, the gameplay is very similar to the excellent Scramble, mixed with the radar screen from Defender. I've never seen the arcade machine, but the game looks and plays quite well on the Colecovision. You shoot enemies with your flintlock spaceship rifle, which fires at the speed of a snail stuck in superglue. Fortunately, you can also bomb enemies, which is your more effective weapon. You can even bomb air targets, which I recommend because it's cool. Hitting the enemy air targets with the guns on this thing is damn near impossible, but you want to get rid of them if you can because they will shoot at you. Also, watch out for those yellow missiles on the ground. Sometimes they'll fire at you and chase down your spaceship. Basically, Cosmic Avenger is a straightforward, old-school spaceship shooter. There are better horizontally scrolling spaceship shooters out there, but few of them are as raw as this one. Like Scramble, it will give you a punishing yet rewarding challenge, especially if you like scoring points. Those purple things on the ground look like beakers, even though they're shooting missiles at me. My theory is that they're growing aliens inside of them. Just when it seems like Cosmic Avenger doesn't take you anywhere interesting, the landscape changes, and all of a sudden you're shooting some kind of truck on the ground. But watch out for the spaceships, because they are irritating and will shoot you. But if you're super cool, you can sometimes convince the Moon Patrol buggy on the ground to shoot the spaceships accidentally. Haha! When that happens, I get the same thrill that I get when the robots shoot each other in Berserk. We've made it out of the Moon Patrol stage into the Ice Cavern. Now you've got to watch out for enemies above you and those irritating pink missiles hogging the airspace. Cosmic Avenger may not seem all that exciting today because just about every other side-scrolling spaceship shooter has similar elements, but this was one of the first. And if you enjoy old-school classic spaceship shooters like Scramble, Defender, and Vanguard, then you should definitely check out Cosmic Avenger. The game cartridge is relatively easy to find on eBay and doesn't cost all that much. If you check out my review of Scramble on the Vectrex, you'll see the similarities between the two games. After you make it through the Ice Cavern, the game starts from the cityscape at the beginning, and you go through the levels again, except it's harder. Like other ColecoVision games, there's 4 difficulty settings. I actually completely forget what setting I'm playing on here, probably the second or third. I'm playing this using the Atari 7800 gamepad, but you do need a ColecoVision controller plugged into slot 2 to start the game using the number pad. please notice, because this is an important part of the storyline, that the ground, for whatever planet this is, has changed from red plaid to purple plaid. That's the power of Cosmic Avenger. If you keep flying and scoring points and kicking ass on your Colecovision, the ground will again return to red. My theory is that the aliens being grown in the beakers are telepathically changing the ground matter. Red means fear. Purple means concern. If it turns yellow, that means they're in love with you. It's Cosmic Avenger for the Colecovision. This is Mousetrap from Exidy, originally released to the arcades in 1981. We're watching the Colecovision version released in 82 or 83. Previously, I reviewed the Atari 2600 Mousetrap game, which isn't nearly as good as this one. The Colecovision version of Mousetrap is dynamite. And this is a tough game, a fun game, yet another one of many Pac-Man clones. This one is featured in my definitive Pac-Man guide. As a recommended Pac-Man clone, there's so many of these, but I like Mousetrap and the subtle and not so subtle differences between this one and the Man of Pac. The biggest difference, in addition to the maze and the doors, is that you have control over when you use power pellets. And that doesn't sound like a big difference until you play the game and realize it's huge. Because strategically you can use that to your advantage when you want to charge into a part of the maze and eat dots or eat the cheese. And gobble up a bunch of cats while you're at it, because the power pellets, they're not called power pellets. I don't have the manual, I'm not sure what they're called, but they're power pellets. The power pellets turn your mouse into a dog which eats cats. Never actually seen a dog eat a cat before. But the urban legend is that dogs eat cats. But they sure do in this game. And when playing Mousetrap on the Colecovision, you'll use the keypad to open the doors. There's a button for the yellow, the red, and the blue door. And the middle button on the keypad activates your dog power pellet. That takes some getting used to. 1 opens the red door, 2 opens the yellow, and 3 is the blue. Mousetrap is a bit like Lock and Chase mixed with Ladybug mixed with Pac-Man. All these games are good. I'm doing a lot of research on Pac-Man games right now. And I like this one. It's not one of my favorites, but it's pretty clever. And then there's the Hawk, which is like Evil Otto from Berserk. It flies over the maze and eats your mouse if it catches it. I have seen hawks eat things. That's true. They're mean. If you're smaller than a hawk, man, you're screwed. Smurfs. Tough luck. It's not Gargamel you have to watch out for, it's hawks. Oh no, I forgot to activate my dog power-up. It's actually not the cats that you have to watch out for in this game, it's the hawk, because there's nothing you can do to stop the hawk. Your mouse does not have surface-to-air missiles, which is a shame. That would be a super cool mouse. The hawk is indestructible, so you just have to run away from it while also avoiding the cats and trying to clear the maze and collect the bonus items. It's a good game, and a great ColecoVision release, because as you can see, this looks so much better than the Atari one, which did not even include the hawk, and that's one of the main points of the game, is avoiding the hawk. When you increase the difficulty, the game itself doesn't change, just the ferocity and intelligence of the hawk. It doesn't just fly around randomly going, dun, dun, dun. It actually seeks you out and then, eviscerates you because you're a mouse. And that's how Hawks roll. Mousetrap is, like most of these old school ColecoVision games, super cheap and easy to collect. I like Ladybug a little bit more, but Mousetrap has grown on me. This one is so much better than the Atari release, and like I said, it's in my definitive Pac-Man guide, which is coming out mid-November 2017. Hunt that one down if you like Pac-Man, you'll love this. Follow me as an author on Amazon to be alerted when Hawks are about to eat you. Not sure that's how it works, doesn't matter. Mousetrap is a fun game. If you like ColecoVision, you want this in your collection. The controls can be tricky because you have to memorize which buttons open what doors, especially when the game starts moving really fast. Also, unlike Pac-Man, this one requires a bit more precision when trying to navigate the maze, and that can be tough. But on the whole, I do like this one and recommend it. Mousetrap for your ColecoVision. What's the time? It's time for Time Pilot on the mighty ColecoVision. But I'm not playing it with any standard ColecoVision controller. This time, allow me to introduce the new Super CV from Edladdin controllers. An arcade joystick that I backed a while ago on Kickstarter, requested orange buttons and a black faceplate. Here it is. The Super CV. Took him a while to get this thing created, but Ed's communication was excellent and the controller works well. Let's fire this up. I don't really care for the original ColecoVision color scheme or the ColecoVision button color scheme, so I just went straight orange. Because who doesn't love orange? I actually forgot to bring one of the standard ColecoVision controllers to compare the two, but this has a massive length of cord, and instead of that awkward thumb disc thing, it has a real arcade joystick. And plug this into the ColecoVision. The massive Edladdin ColecoVision controller. Love this thing. I just like big badass controllers for old school game systems, like the Vectorcade. It's incredible. The difference is this is mine. I actually returned the Vectorcade to Mark. Thanks for loaning that to the show again, Mark. Woo! The ColecoVision has an excellent version of Time Pilot. Woo! Yeah! This really improves Time Pilot. Seriously, this is great. I'm not even sure if you can buy these anymore, but if you can, and you're serious about your ColecoVision, get one. Nice clicky joystick. Clicky joysticks are like clicky keyboards. They make everything better. Stupid helicopters, meet your doom! Here's a close-up look of the actual clicky controller, which works well. Here's the ColecoVision buttons, and you could get this with a colorful overlay as well, but I just kind of like the black. The only thing better than black would have been wood grain, but I don't think he was doing wood grain. Like I said, I just went with 4 arcade quality buttons, orange. Let's fire up another game using the Super CV for the ColecoVision. I'm gonna go with one of my favorites. It's been a while since I played this version of Frenzy for the ColecoVision. Alright, I reviewed this years ago. Let's see if it plays well with the Super CV, which I'm sure it will. Big, badass ColecoVision controller. That's what I would have called it. Just the big, badass ColecoVision controller. If I could ask for 2 things to be different about this, one would be wood grain, The other would be a slot for my Sega Dreamcast VMU card. Just because I like that thing. Alright, let's go kill stuff. Woo! On the table. There we go. Evil Otto! Why are you so evil? No! Get away from me. Where's Evil Otto? Come on. Come on out. Come on out. Woo! Man, you gotta hustle in this game. I have the arcade machine for this. Actually, this controller is better than the one on my arcade machine. Of course, it's much older than this. Man, this is such a good version of this game. And the controller is excellent. It really is. I'm not just being nice. It's a very good controller. I love the joystick. And I hate Evil Otto. Actually, I like Evil Otto. But I want my points. Intellivision. Like, the Colecovision controller is bad. The Intellivision controller is awful. Oh! Frenzy was fun, but now I'm going with Pepper 2 for the Colecovision. Never played Pepper 1, but I do like Pepper, so I expect great things from this game. I'm actually not familiar with this game, so let's start. Pepper 2. What do you do? It's from Exidy. They always make weird stuff, right? Oh, it's like Amadar. Oh, that's good. I like Amadar. Choplifter. I hardly know her. Zippity Tudo when you win a game? I like this one. Pepper 2 is legit. This plays great with this controller, too. Why did I just collect scissors? Where's the part where I blow up civilians? Make an effort. Get to the helicopter. You lazy whoa, 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 whoa. Everyone on board. It's like Airwolf, except with more seats. Come on. Bonus! My oh my, what a wonderful day with a badass ColecoVision controller. Woo. I did not like the way this game played with the standard controller. Of course, I don't like anything about the standard ColecoVision controller, to be perfectly honest. Good news! The mighty ColecoVision controller plays Ms. Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. Which means that now I am going to be spending the rest of my day playing Ms. Pac-Man. Love this game. This is the version of Ms. Pac-Man that I spent most of my youth playing. Until I got the 7800 one. That's also very good. This game is significant because this is the first game that I reviewed back in 2008 for the relaunch of Classic Game Room. Zaxxon for the Atari 2600, which does play with the super badass ColecoVision controller. Oh, this is a lot nicer than a standard Atari controller. That's not a great version of Zaxxon, but... No! This frog still hasn't learned to swim. Come on! Yeah! Is that a space whale? It is! Oh, the space whale! Yes! I'm in frog heaven! I'm not sure what just happened. So there you have it, the Super CV giant, big, badass ColecoVision controller. Plays ColecoVision well, plays Atari 2600. And I've got some Choplifter and Pepper 2 to review, so I'll see you soon on Classic Game Room. All the way from 1984, it's Qbert Qubes on the ColecoVision, a sequel to the arcade hit Qbert. But unlike the original, where you're just landing on blocks, turning them all the same color, while dodging enemies, in Qbert Qubes you're rotating the blocks in a three-dimensional space, lining them up in a tic-tac-toe fashion to score points, while also dodging enemies. It's like Qbert with an additional element of thinking. Ouch. Alright, you see what I did there? It's pretty simple in the beginning, and had I been more ambitious, I could have hopped around and turned a few of the other ones for some additional points. And like the original Qbert, it holds your hand for the first level or two and then sends you screaming off into traffic on your own, because the game becomes infinitely more challenging as it slowly turns into a giant Rubik's Cube of death. Yes, my thoughts exactly, Qbert. I agree. Now, I find this game much harder than the original Qbert, but equally fun. Fortunately, you are equipped with one very powerful offensive tool which you can use against the enemy if you wait until just the last moment before you hop off of your block. Right before that purple thing attacks you, he'll fall through the block into empty space, dying a horrible, horrible death, where he is slowly digested over a period of 1,002 years. And then, of course, there's that green jackass rotating your blocks against you after you've already rotated them, which is like 3 times more irritating than the original game when they just turn them a single color, because then you just land on them, but in this game you actually have to think about what direction to rotate them. And the thinking hurts. It's like knocking cobwebs out of my brain, but it's a good pain. In an era when the majority of games are made as easy as possible just to get people playing them, it's refreshing to see a game that can literally kick your ass and then do tequila shots with Robotron 2084 afterwards. I'll jump ahead a few levels here. I'm not even playing on one of the harder difficulty settings. Like many ColecoVision games, there's 4 difficulty levels. I'm playing on number 2 out of 4. Terrific. I even managed to outsmart myself, which frequently is not that hard. It's like occasionally while playing this one at the harder levels, I had to pretend I was holding the block in my hand and try to rotate it into position while forgetting that Qbert was actually dodging enemies or could possibly jump off the side of the board. It's tricky because if in the original Qbert you were doing 2 different things at once, in this game you're doing 3 things at once. And I have a shout out to deliver to Joel from Calgary, Canada. Home of the Calgary Flames! Thank you for the donation, Joel. I've enjoyed this one. It's actually been a while since I've reviewed a ColecoVision game, which is a shame, because I love the ColecoVision. As you can see on screen, the production value of Qbert Qubes is near arcade quality. The sound effects are terrific. The controls work like the original Qbert on ColecoVision, and it does play well with the standard ColecoVision controller, because you're not using the buttons, which pretty much suck on that controller. There we go. As the game progresses, you also have to line up more than just one line of cubes. And if you take a lot of time rotating them into position, like I'm doing, then odds are that green thing will come along and totally wreck your game. So you've got to work quickly, and it's really very tricky, and a lot of fun. Extremely well-made game. I'm surprised I've really never heard of this one. I like the original Qbert, and I do recommend Qbert Qubes for fans of old-school arcade games.
There's a version of this that's also on Atari 2600. It was originally an arcade machine. But if you're collecting for consoles and have a ColecoVision, this one is awesome. Qbert Qubes. And Qubes is spelled incorrectly with a Q-U-B-E-S. Boy, no wonder this game never caught on. Back in '84, when people were Googling for it, they probably were spelling cubes wrong. Wait, no, that didn't happen. Actually, to further complicate searching, this game is technically called Q*Bert S Qubes. Qbert's Qubes. Man, they would have really simplified this today. It would have just been called like QBQ and then give you achievement points just for turning it on.
Welcome to Classic Game Room. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if they made a Pac-Man clone that was like a cross between Lock and Chase and Earth Defense Force? Well, keep on wondering, because this is Ladybug for the ColecoVision. EDF! Woo! What are you guys playing this weekend? Ladybug! Because it's awesome. Which it is. It's very good. There's a bazillion and one Pac-Man clones from the early 80s, but few as fun and addictive as Ladybug for the ColecoVision. Ladybug, lady, 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 ladybug, 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 lady, lady. This is an absolutely remarkable Pac-Man clone that reminds me of Lock and Chase because you can open and close doors. But in some other ways, it kinda reminds me of Dig Dug, maybe because you're going for vegetables in the middle of the screen, which are healthy. Personally, I prefer pretzels and Ms. Pac-Man, but that's just me. Ladybug is one of these games that you absolutely must have for your ColecoVision. Oh, come on, yeah! Yeah, that never happened. In fact, it may be one of the best games on ColecoVision. It actually debuted as an arcade game from Universal in 1981. I've never seen it before, but it's definitely one of my favorites on ColecoVision. Alright, Mark, how do you play Ladybug? It's actually more intuitive than you might think once you start playing this game. Like most of the other ColecoVision releases, there's 4 difficulty settings, so start out on easy. I typically play the game on level 2. I'm not that good yet, I'm still learning the ins and outs, but basically, you want to collect 3 hearts when they're blue, and that gets you up to the 5 times multiplier. Then, you can either try to be patient and collect all of the special letters when they're red, or the extra letters when they're yellow. I'm not sure I've ever actually successfully done that yet, or just concentrate on eating all of the dots on screen while avoiding the enemies, who appear each time that counter goes around the outside of the screen. If the enemies hit one of the Punisher skulls, they die and go back to the middle. Woo! Big money, big prizes, big carrots. When all 4 enemies are on screen at once, there's a prize in that center area. If you can sneak your way in there, you can get some big points and freeze the enemies, which is actually way more useful than you might think, especially when the game gets moving quickly. No! Wanted that bonus. It's like Dig Dug. I don't know what that is. Looks like a tube of blueberry mustard. I don't think that's actually a thing, but this game certainly is, and while I'm not a huge fan of the ColecoVision controller, it does play fairly well with it. I think Ladybug is also on the Intellivision, which hurts me just thinking about it. The ColecoVision controller may not be great, but at least it's not painful. Yes! No! I need to get that stupid thing out of there. Well, I'm sure there's quite a bit of strategy I haven't figured out yet. One thing, which is pretty obvious, is to clear out the interior dots first if you have a chance. Since the enemies spawn from the middle, it's easier to avoid them on the outside. Oh, I must look like I knew what I was doing there. Good thing I recorded that, or else you'd never believe me. I always start out each level by collecting 3 blue hearts as quickly as possible. That seems to be the best way to get the highest score. No, no, no! Ah. Game over! Oh, but I was having fun. This game is awesome. Chase me, you dumbass! Oh, no! Oh, that was the controller's fault. There's no real time limit, so you can stay on screen as long as you need to. Try to keep the enemies away from you by using the doors and just play smart. You're a ladybug after all. They're like the dolphins of the insect world. They're magical. I'm not so wild about the game's sound effects, though. It's not too bad when it's slow, but then it speeds up and just turns into some kind of anxiety-inducing alarm clock. I'm coming for that tomato! I need an extra guy. How many points do you have to get an extra life in this game? Ladybug is hours of fun, it looks good, it plays well, it's challenging, infinite replay value, and it's not that expensive to collect online either. Most of the Colecovision stuff is pretty cheap. This one is not just highly recommended, it's super duper highly recommended. It's Ladybug. Special gets you an extra game, extra gives you an extra life, and if you can spell Truxton, you destroy the universe. Woo! Yes! Look at me go! Oh yeah, right into the skull. Dumbass. Whatever that is. You suck. Yes! Some big prizes! VCR! Oh, wow, that was lucky. I should have died there like 5 times over. Woo! Bamboo shoot! Oh, wow, that sounds delicious. No! I got greedy! When did this game turn into Centipede? No. Game over. That was fun. Not gonna beat that score today. It's Mr. Do on the Colecovision, a 1983 release based on the 1982 arcade game. And what does Mr. Do do? Well, what doesn't Mr. Do do? That sounds weird. Well, for one thing, he does share a lot in common with Dig Dug. For example, they both wanted Ms. Pac-Man. But at the time, she was married to K.C. Munchkin. It's unclear if Mr. Do ever did pick up sloppy seconds, though. Did I just say that on air? Mr. Do is a clown who uses a fun ball to break enemies, I think? I'm not sure what he is, but he's awesome. I've heard a lot about this game over the years, and have seen a number of requests for a review of it come out of England. I think he was the missing beetle, Mr. Do on the Zither. I spent quite a bit of time with this game for the review because it's really fun and it's hard to put down once you start playing it. especially if you enjoy Dig Dug. I'm far more familiar with Namco's arcade classic, where the bike pump wielding assassin Mr. Dig Dug does many of the same things that Mr. Do does do. It's like a code word. Why are you leaving the dinner table, Tommy? I've got to play Mr. Do. Wink. At first, it seems like there's a lot more going on in Mr. Do than in Dig Dug. It's that high-fiber diet. There's different ways to score points in this game. For instance, collecting 8 cherries in a row gives you 500 extra points. And you can pick up those extra letters by throwing your fun clown ball at them, which do award you an extra man when you spell extra. Extra do. Now that just sounds like a commercial. Do the do. Mr. Do. The Colecovision version of this game has 4 different difficulty settings. I'm playing on level 2, because I haven't really figured out all of the different attack patterns to properly master Mr. Do yet. But I'm getting there. I've never seen the arcade version, but as you might expect, and like Dig Dug, the enemies become far more aggressive and faster as the game progresses. It's fairly easy to kill off enemies with your Super Ball, but you are left vulnerable until it returns. Especially if it's bouncing around the screen when you really need it. On the other hand, it can also act like a heat-seeking missile. So you launch it out there and know that it'll eventually kill something. Another letter. You clear the screens by collecting all of the cherries or by killing off all of the enemies. And Mr. Do has that awesome risk versus reward style of arcade gameplay. You can play it safe and just try to avoid everything and collect all of the cherries, or you can be aggressive and try to kill the enemies and also collect the cherries. I found that playing somewhere between those two mentalities works well. Kill off a few enemies to thin the herd, and then get through the levels. Unlike Dig Dug, you are not scored points for just eating dirt. That's Dig Dug's thing. He loves dirt. Gameplay on the Colecovision game cartridge is really solid. It looks and sounds great, like you would expect from the almighty Colecovision, which is such a badass game console for these early 80s arcade games. The Colecovision controller is not bad, although at times you may find that you can't reverse direction fast enough, and after several hours it does start to hurt your hand. So bring more hands. Hey, what happens if I do pick up that last extra letter? Let's watch and find out. I don't know what those things are, but to me they look like Chex Mix, which just makes me hungry. Hungry for an extra life! Time to dish out some groovy tunes and an extra Mr. Do! No game has ever made me feel so awesome to earn an extra life like this one. It's so festive, it's so likable, it's so much fun. Mr. Do is awesome. We've been watching the ColecoVision version, but this game is available on numerous other platforms, including the Atari 2600, and other versions were made for the Super Nintendo and Neo Geo. I wonder how the story ended, if there was ever a Mrs. Do, or a Do Jr. Well, one thing is for sure, this game is awesome, and it makes you proud to scream at the top of your lungs in public, I love Mr. Do! Gotta love the music in this game. It's Omega Race, being played on the Colecovision from 1983, based on the 1981 arcade machine. This is like an evil, diabolical combination of Asteroids meets Robotron 2084. It's one of the most challenging games on the Colecovision, and most of the games are really short, but one of my favorites for the mighty 8-bit Colecovision. I reviewed this not too long ago on the Atari 2600. What stood out about that version was the unique joystick that managed to give you two buttons for the Atari 2600, one button to thrust and the other one to fire. This one can be played with the standard Colecovision controller or the roller controller to give you a bit more precision when firing. This is really hard because you can only fire in the direction that you're moving, so it's not like Robotron in that respect. It plays more like Asteroids, but it has this frantic, you're going to die almost immediately Robotron feel to it. The game will basically kick you off of each level in like 15 seconds if you don't shoot everything, because then the enemies start spawning mines and it just gets overwhelming quickly. This is a more complex version of the game than the Atari release. There's several different variants. You can play with bouncing walls. You can play with like a Pac-Man style warp tunnel through from the top to the bottom of the screen. There's a different level where you can play with a split box in the middle of the screen. You can't fly through the box with the score. That's just there to get in your way. But after you spend a lot of time with Omega Race, here's a look at the roller controller being used. You learn that, in a way, it is kind of like a race because you want to chase the enemies around that box because you need to keep your distance from them. If you get close to the enemies in this game, you're doomed because they have far more accuracy than you do. And they're nasty little buggers, too. Stay as far away from them as possible. Just circle that thing, wait for the right moment to strike, and then fire from across the screen if possible, if you can do that. But it's hard to control. This game is tricky, and it's not because the controls are bad. It was just designed to be really hard to control. Omega Race causes anxiety. I feel like there's some more strategy I haven't mastered yet in here. I keep looking for a spot on screen to just camp out and pick off the enemies, but there doesn't seem to be one. And you can't fire across the screen because that stupid box with the score is in the way. It's almost like they engineered that. One of my tactics that kind of worked was just to fly up and down and bounce off the top of the screen and slide down slowly and pick off the enemies when they come around the corner. If you can get them before they shoot at you, that's, you know, certainly helpful. But if you start flying around the screen fast and like zipping all over the place, you're done. You're doomed. They'll kick your ass. Omega Race is like Defender hard. This game is brutal, but it's just so much fun because of it. And the games are all super short, which is fun. You can play 1 or 2 player. There's a head-to-head mode in this version of the game. Numerous difficulties. And it looks great on the ColecoVision. Also, the music is awesome. Here's a look at the box, one of the rare ColecoVision games that I have a box for, and I took a photo of this and used it as a full screen shot for Ultramassive Video Game Console Guide 2. This is one of my recommended games for the ColecoVision. With music that cheerful, how could I not recommend Omega Race? This game is tough, takes a lot of practice, and there's a variety of ways to score points. It plays well with the roller controller, but It's not required to enjoy the game. It also plays pretty well with the joystick. This is a very cool release for the Colecovision. It's fun on the Atari 2600 also, and that joystick that came with that one is super cool, but this is probably the better version of the game. Never seen this one in the arcades. It's Omega Race. Super duper. Highly recommended for your Colecovision. Welcome to Classic Game Room for the review of Subroc on the mighty Colecovision. Enjoy! Subroc, being played here on the Colecovision, is based on a 1982 Sega arcade game, which according to the internet was called Subroc 3D, and I guess that makes this Subroc 2D. There is no 3D effect here, but I am playing it with this badass Colecovision controller, the Edladdin Super CV. For precise sub-rocking controls, this game feels like Sega's answer to Atari's Battlezone, or Robot Tank, which was Activision's answer to Atari's Battlezone. Except instead of a tank, you're driving what I think is a submarine, actually. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have the instructions. But you are destroying submarines, UFOs, spaceships, aircraft carriers, and occasionally a Spanish galleon that just happens to get in the way. I imagine it was up to no good. Subroc is an okay game on the Colecovision, not one of the best, but after playing it for a while, it kind of grew on me. I got into it. It's like so many of these old school, early first-person shooter-style games, really. You just blow up stuff on screen and progress to the next level where everything is moving faster and shooting at you more frequently. It's an easy game to pick up for your Colecovision. I imagine this was pretty cool in 3D. I mean, you can see the 3D. Ooh, there's an aircraft carrier. Launch some torpedoes out there, and it missed. How did I miss an aircraft carrier? The sound does kind of get annoying after a while, and the game gets repetitive after every round, or at the end of every round. You can see I'm finishing up round 3 here. You'll battle an end boss spaceship, and I think what you do here, I'm not entirely sure, but I think you need to shoot around the force field, or maybe that's just distortion, I don't know. Looks like there's a force field. And if you keep shooting at it, eventually it'll explode and give you some points. And send you to the next level, where you battle the future submarine boat things, UFOs, spaceships, and Spanish galleons. Subroc is alright. I love the title of this game, but I'm sure it was way cooler in 3D. In 2 dimensions, it's merely okay. If you're buying a bunch of Colecovision games and you stumble upon this one, if you like games like Battlezone or Robot Tank, check it out. You fire your torpedoes if you're aiming down at the boats. When you fire up at the air targets, you shoot lasers automatically. It's actually a little bit more fun than it looks, but not one of the best Colecovision games. It's not up there with Frenzy or Omega Race or Truxton 3 on the Colecovision. Those are the best games. Truxton 3 is hard to find, by the way. One might say it's impossible, in fact. Subroc, however, is quite easy to find, and fun in small doses. Oh, come on, I shot that thing. Whatever that was. Avenger is a 1981 arcade game where you play as a character named Winky and explore dungeons for treasure. This is the 1982 Venture game cartridge for the Colecovision. Now, unfortunately, I've never seen the arcade machine, but most of the Colecovision versions of arcade games are nice representations of the arcade originals. There's a wide map as you navigate Winky through the dungeon, where he looks like a little tiny pixel. You can't attack the bad guys in any way, you just have to avoid them and try to enter the different rooms of the dungeon. At which point, you then zoom into the close-up view here of Winky, fighting bad guys, dodging traps, and collecting treasure. There, can you see me? I'm the little pixel on the bottom left. Hello. My name is Winky. I fight monsters with a bow and arrow that looks like a weather vane. Now I'm on the clock. I've got to get this room cleared and get out of there before Evil Otto comes onto the screen. And I'm not joking. I don't know what it's called, but a big green monster thing comes onto the screen just like Evil Otto in Berserk, and will eliminate you if you take too long in the room. You can't shoot him, all you can do is run. So it behooves you to get your job done quickly, but what might not be apparent from watching the gameplay is that Winky is not very maneuverable or responsive. What he's saying is that I suck! No, I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I think the controls were made intentionally challenging because this game would be really easy if you could accurately aim and dodge enemies. Like, if this game had Robotron-style controls, it would be cake, but it doesn't. It's got far more in common with Berserk, in many ways. So we're on to the next level here, and as you rotate through levels over time, they'll get faster and more challenging. Note that after you shoot bad guys, you cannot run into them. They're like the aliens from Alien, and leave giant puddles of acid that you can't step in until they magically evaporate. So when you gun down a bunch of the bad guys in this game, know that they're a wall preventing you from getting to the treasure, giving the evil Otto imposter time to get you. I need to find more treasure! Damn it, there's a wall of carcasses preventing me from leaving this room. Didn't somebody bring a flamethrower? Maybe that's only in the arcade version. It only makes sense. I keep this handy for close and... well, no, that was a shotgun. Same principle, though. While this game is on the Atari 2600 as well, don't confuse it with
Adventure, minus 2 letters. It's a completely different game. And don't run into bad guys because they will off you without mercy. Ooh, snap! Give me some bonus score! Why does he sound like he's freebasing helium? What's in that treasure? It should be noted that the faster you clear out each level, the more bonus score you get. Basically, Venture rocks, and is a must-have game for your Colecovision collection. What? You don't have a Colecovision collection? Why? What's wrong with you? Go get one! Everybody needs a Colecovision, and Vectrex, they're the best things that 1982 had to offer. Ah! Get the hell out of the room! Every time you score an extra 20,000 points, you get an extra Mr. Winky. And make sure to tell all of your friends about that. Everyone respects a man with multiple Winkies, because how else do you expect to get through some of the harder levels when the enemies become faster? As with most Colecovision games, there's 4 different difficulty settings. I'm playing on number 2, which is not terribly hard, but it takes a while to get used to the controls in this game, because they truly are unresponsive. It takes this guy a while to stop, turn, and shoot. Winky needs to go to the Pac-Man School of Controls.
Welcome to Classic Game Room for the review of an incredible, obscure game on the Colecovision. It's the sequel to a game that doesn't exist. It's Pepper 2. As far as I can tell, there is no Pepper 1. So they just skipped right ahead to Pepper 2. They knew the sequel was going to be so good, they just disregarded the first one completely. Colecovision presents Exidy's Pepper 2. Now, Exidy made some really interesting games back in the early 80s. And if I could go back in time, I would like to see what happens, or what would happen if we could put Exidy and Imagic in the same room together. I feel like that would result in a great time. Let's go skill level 2. Great music. I'm using the Edladdin's Super CV Big Ass Colecovision controller. And what you want to do is zip all of the things. Can you tell that they're zippers? Pepper 2 from 1983 is one of the surprise gems on the Colecovision, which you absolutely must own. This is a great game, and one that I, for whatever reason, never got around to playing until a few years later in 2017. What you do in this game is you zip the squares and turn them into, I think those are plaid shag carpet tiles, or at least I hope that's what they are, because who doesn't love plaid shag carpet tiles? Anything shag and plaid is good. And when you get the little pitchfork things, you can then eat the enemies. So at first this game reminded me a lot of Amadar, and it still does, but it's actually got a lot of Pac-Man influence in it too. Gotta watch out for this super fast green thing here. There we go. And get the pitchfork. You can eat the enemies for points. Like Pac-Man, you get more for each enemy that you eat, but you get way more points for filling in the entire maze. So I tend to focus on that first. I am still learning the ins and outs of Pepper 2. There's a lot of strategy in this game, more than it appears at first. There's 4 mazes in each round, and you have to clear all of them before you get the super bonus and move on to the next round. You can move between mazes at any time, and strategically, you'll learn to do that a lot, as you often find yourself cornered by enemies, and just move over to the other maze where it takes them time to regenerate.
Freeze that dumbass thing. Eat all of those things for big points. And then screw that up completely. Ah! Run! I'm gonna run away to the other maze. You don't have to finish the entire maze. I mean, you do, but not all at the same time. You can go back and finish it again later.
Visually, it's not a very exciting game, but Pepper 2 is a lot of fun. And as you may have noticed when you collect that pitchfork lurking within the shag carpet fibers, you'll momentarily freeze the enemies, and then you can kill them off for points like eating the ghosts in Pac-Man. And you'll also stun that irritating green thing that runs around the maze and moves very quickly. Not sure how to get rid of it though, possibly with fire. That seems to work for most things.
Yeah! Woo! Victory! Patience. You need lots of patience in this game. And cat-like reflexes.
This one is highly recommended. Pepper 2. Who needs a Pepper 1? But we do need a Pepper 3, so Exidy, get on that.
Oh, and it starts going, what? No, 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 no! That was somebody else's fault. Get the pitchfork. Eat. And eat that guy. Good job, Mark. Okay, get out of there. Woo! No! Whoa, almost got eaten on that one. No, get away from me! Yeah! That's a close one. My oh my, what a wonderful day. I should play the theme song from Get Smart. No! No! He cornered me. He looks like the Kool-Aid guy, doesn't he? I want some big points for that, thanks. Stop unzipping things that I have already zipped. Ah! I'll teach you. Woo! Oh yeah. That's right. I zip things like it's my job. Because it is my job. Why wasn't this game called Zipper? Why Pepper? What does Pepper have to do with zippering things? Like, I really don't know. This game just got real because now I'm playing with my right hand. I'm now using my Pac-Man hand. All of you monsters can die. Woo, 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 woo! Get this. Yeah.
Level 3! We gotta finish this one. No! Oh, that stupid thing, it's gonna unzip me! Don't get... No! No! It all falls apart so quickly in this game. Whoa! 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 How do we get over here? I need to zip this thing! Yes! Oh, that was the whole, super bonus! Thank you for watching. The Ultra Massive Video Game Console Guide comes out July 21st, 2017. So depending on what year you're watching this, it may already be out. Jesus 2 is in print, and Pepper 2 is a terrific game for your ColecoVision. No, it's not what I said to do. That's a commendable score. I'll take that. 203, 190. Score to beat, kids. Level 2. Pepper 2. I need that damn pitchfork. Oh, I just unzipped it. No, I need to... Don't unzip it. They don't give you much of a musical introduction here on the ColecoVision, but they do give you a screen that tells you what video game you're playing and on what game system. Also the option to choose between 4 different difficulty settings for 1 player or 2 player. This game is Slither. And Slither is fucking epic. It pwns you newbies FTW LOL. That's a bunch of bullshit. This game is old school. It uses a trackball. Therefore, we will only use classical terms to describe Slither. This game is capital. It's tip-top. It's the kind of game that Jane Austen could play with a pint of meat in one hand and the trackball in the other. There's no cattywampus mishmash of complicated storyline or complex controls. Here you simply move the trackball to move your laser cannon and push buttons to shoot things. If it moves, you shoot it. Preferably more than once, just to make sure. With a copyright of 1983, Slither looks a lot like another game that involves a serpentine creature, namely centipede or millipede. But it's slightly different, and in many ways, Slither comes out ahead, especially on this terrific home console version. Using the amazing ColecoVision roller controller, the graphics are excellent, the controls are responsive. The gameplay of Slither is highly addictive, and if you like Centipede and the old-school 80s games and trackball games like Missile Command, but especially Centipede, you'll love Slither on the ColecoVision. As you progress levels, the enemies increase in number and ferocity. There's more and more snakes and dinosaurs and pterodactyls to shoot at. They literally fill the screen, and it's a lot of fun to shoot your way out of them. And I like the background. It reminds me of the beginning of 2001. I keep expecting a monolith to appear at some point. and advance my laser cannon to the next evolutionary phase.
Here's the game cartridge for Slither for the Colecovision and Atom family computer system for use only with Colecovision roller controller. And that's what we have here. And this is what I'm using to play Slither. This thing is awesome. You fire up using this button and down using this button, and then you move the guy around the screen with a trackball. Just like a real arcade machine. This thing is fantastic. It also has 2 controllers on either side of it. This is awesome. They need to make this kind of shit again.
By the way, note the bonus multiplier on the top right of the screen. That counts down and rewards you the faster you clear each level of bad guys. So not only do you get scored for shooting everything, but you get scored in what time you can complete each level. If you've been watching the screen closely, you can see the differences between Slither and Centipede. Instead of mushrooms, you get bushes. That's one difference. Instead of a spider, it's a pterodactyl. Stuff like that. You have a bit more mobility with the laser cannon, and as you saw with the ColecoVision roller controller, it's easy to shoot enemies above you, to shoot enemies below you. It's a lot like Robotron 2084 in that it's very easy to pick this game up and start playing it, but very difficult to reach some extremely high scores because the screen fills with enemies who are all converging on you. Most of the fun in Slither comes from finding ways to shoot your way out of tough situations. There's rocks and bushes and dinosaurs impeding your way. I started off playing at the first difficulty setting, but as the game moves along, it picks up speed rapidly. You could start at a higher difficulty setting and it's immediately faster and more challenging. In the later levels, there's snakes that hide beneath the surface and you can just see the tips of their tails sticking out. They're like these sandworms from Dune. That would have been nice if they could have incorporated spice power-ups into this game somehow. Traveling to different levels without moving. It's a shame that games like this have virtually disappeared today. The good thing is you can find trackballs for the ColecoVision, for the Atari 2600, and for the old-school game systems, and there's some excellent games like Slither, like Centipede, that use trackballs. And if you're a younger listener, and you've never played games with trackballs before, you have to. Take my word for it, they give you a totally different kind of control and precision over your gameplay. It's hard to describe with words, and for us old school gamers out there, you know what I'm talking about. If you've misplaced your trackball or your parents wouldn't get you one for Christmas in 1984, now's the time. Welcome to the classic Game Room review of Gorf. It sounds like a silly name, but it's not. Gorf stands for Galactic Orbiting Robot Force. And I'm glad that they have an acronym for that, Gorf, because if you're fighting the Galactic Orbiting Robot Force, Galactic Orbiting Robot Force, that has 9 syllables. You can't just shout that out in the middle of combat. It's much faster, easier, and more efficient to just say Gorf. Then everyone knows what you're talking about. Oh, the Galactic Orbiting Robot Force. Yeah, they're back again. Well, let's go shoot them in 4 different modes of gameplay here on the ColecoVision. Sadly, I never owned a ColecoVision in my youth. I was strictly an Atari 2600 guy. Well, by guy I mean like 8 years old. without the disposable income to run out and buy a Colecovision. It was not until recently, while producing Classic Game Room, that I was finally able to acquire a Colecovision, and wow, it's amazing. The Colecovision was released to the United States market in 1982. Gorf came out in the arcades in 1981. And amazingly, I never actually played the game in the arcades. I'd always heard about Gorf. And I'll be honest, this is one of the best video games I've ever played. And just look at it on screen. First of all, it's 4 games in one, and the ColecoVision handles this marvelously. The graphics, the sound effects, and the gameplay are terrifically smooth, and from what I've seen, you'll find that in a lot of ColecoVision games. It's a much more powerful game system than the Atari 2600. The first stage, as you see on screen now, looks a lot like Space Invaders, the back-and-forth descending galactic orbiting robot force Gorf army. One of the big differences between this level and Space Invaders is that you can move your spaceship up closer to the aliens. You can also shoot rapidly. If you want to hit that spaceship at the top of the screen, then you have to let your shots go all the way to the top of the screen. A terrific element of strategy there, and something I haven't seen in very many old-school games. In the arcade version, I understand they had 5 different levels of gameplay, but here in the ColecoVision you get 4. They're all different, they're all exciting, and they all hail back to that golden age of arcade goodness, the early 1980s. And then you get to the Space Warp, which looks fantastic for a game of this age. It's a lot of fun to play as well. You keep shooting in the middle of the Space Warp and picking off the spaceships as they're coming out of the Space Warp at you. Finally, you get to the flagship, which is like blowing up the Battlestar Galactica with an X-Wing fighter. Always a nice feeling. After you complete each level, each round of 4 different missions, you are then promoted. I'm now a Space Colonel. You start over at Astro Battle once again, and the gameplay increases in speed. It gets very challenging. This game is terrifically addictive, a lot of fun, very well made, very well produced on the ColecoVision. And as I said earlier, this is one of the best games I've ever played. It has every element that makes an old school 1980s arcade game fun. I like the music, I like the sound effects, I like shooting the flagship. If you're watching Classic Game Room and you've never played Gorf, or if it's been 10 or 20 years since you've played it, go out and find this game. It's available on ColecoVision, as you see here. Atari 2600 and 5200, I believe, although I've never actually played those versions, so I'm going to have to hunt that down. A lot of fun to try to beat your high score. You can pick it up every now and then. The games are short and compact. And it's just perfect. This is a perfect video game. And keep watching Classic Game Room as we break out numerous other ColecoVision games. It's an impressive game console. There's only a few game consoles we're missing here on Classic Game Room now. We don't have an Intellivision as of yet, an Atari 5200, Atari Jaguar. A couple people have asked for ZX Spectrum reviews, which I don't even think they released that in the United States, so I don't have one of those yet. The Bally Astrocade, missing that one. Well, assuming the show goes on forever, we'll probably acquire all of these someday. So keep watching, tell your friends, make them watch it. And if they don't, drag them kicking and screaming over to your place and force them to play Gorf until they understand. Going after the flagship, there's that red thing in the middle. That's what you want to hit with your shot, and it gets more challenging as you progress through the game, obviously. The flagship starts shooting at you, it drops enemies down at you. If you hit to the right or left of it, you hit other parts of the spaceship, and that gives you some points as well. So if you're going for maximum points, perhaps you just want to slowly torture the flagship by destroying it bit by bit, or just put the thing out of its misery with one shot. I'm now promoted to Space General, a rank I will proudly display by wearing it on a name tag, and I'll write Space General in crayon. Speaking of crayons, if you write Gorf backwards, you spell frog. Just in case you were wondering. That works with markers also. Don't forget that for the price of one brand new video game, you could buy an entire Colecovision, controllers, probably a couple games including Gorf. And if you like Atari and the Magnavox Odyssey 2 and those really old school game systems, you'll love this thing.
Banished from Earth, Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room. What's the time? It's time for more Time Pilot, this time on the Colecovision. Enjoy! Also the Atom computer, if you have one of those. The Atom. Sounds like it's gonna play a game of thermonuclear war with you. As a general rule, I never trust a computer with a human name. Hal 9000, Mother from Alien, Adam. Adam sounds like he's up to no good. However, this game is up to good because it's Time Pilot for the Colecovision. And I made a vow that in 2016 I would review more Colecovision games, but first I needed to fix my controller. So I was actually testing my Colecovision just to make sure I could explain the controller problems because it wasn't working last year, and it seems to have fixed itself. The Colecovision has self-healing powers. It's like Wolverine, with a sweet metallic finish and rainbow logo. Upon that discovery, I was so excited to finally play this version of Time Pilot, which turns out to be the first home console version of this game that I've ever reviewed. Previously, I reviewed Time Pilot in my multicade. I've reviewed Vector Pilot on the Vectrex, which is like a different take on this game for the Vectrex. It's spectacular. But here we have an official Time Pilot home console release. All the way from 1983, and during this recording session, Colecovision Wolverine seems to have lost his self-healing powers, and controller one stopped working again. So I played a two-player game for the direct feed recording that we're watching here, and used a Sega Genesis controller to play the game on player 2. Dogs bark for Sega Genesis controllers because they're good. Time Pilot is a brilliant old-school Konami arcade game originally released in 1982. Quick, get the guy! There's the big points! You fly through time and space as a super airplane shooting down enemies in 1910, 1940, 1970, and 1985.
Yes!
It does not appear that the UFO level is in this game, sadly. That's from the distant future, 2001. While this may appear simple on screen, it's not. Basically, you fly around in circles and shoot enemies who are shooting at you, but as time progresses, their weapons technology improves. And they upgrade from standard bombs to missiles to super homing missiles in 1985. And it's up to you, the time pilot, to avoid them or at least shoot them down. After you clear out a certain number of enemies in each wave, you then battle an end boss, sort of. You basically just shoot down a giant blimp or airplane.
To the future! Woo!
Which can be trickier than it looks, especially when you really can't see the shots all that well on the Colecovision screen. This is kind of an odd take on Time Pilot. It doesn't look quite like the arcade game. It's close, but on whatever monitor I've played this game, I find the colors to be a bit washed out, and sometimes it's tough to see the enemy fire and the guys parachuting, which is where you get the big points. You want to collect all of the parachuting dudes, which increase in bonus points each time you collect one per level. While the controls take some getting used to with the Colecovision controller, the sound is really good, especially considering this was released in 1983. And watch out for those pesky homing missiles. When you get good at it, you can avoid them, and it's a good trick to leave one on screen at a time chasing you so you know where it is. There's a bunch of different strategies and ways to score points in Time Pilot. It's a fun game. Really easy to pick up and play, but difficult to master. And like a lot of the old school Colecovision games, there's 4 difficulty settings. If you're any good at Time Pilot at all, jump immediately to difficulty 3 or 4. After completing 4 waves of action, you then return to 1910 and annihilate biplanes from the future! Because you're Time Pilot, and they're not.
What? That's not true. This game is factually inaccurate.
While this version of Time Pilot may not be the best home console version out there, I would definitely hunt down the Konami Arcade Classics collection for PlayStation. If you want an authentic arcade recreation of Time Pilot, it's really good. This one is pretty sensational for an early 80s game system. Time Pilot on ColecoVision. Thank you once again to Mark and Suzanne from East Meadow, New York once again. Thank you, where it's always a great time. For Time Pilot, for the dog to bark in the middle of recording. She's a fan. Time Pilot!
Oh, come on! That was unfair. That was unjust. That was unright. Oh. Apparently the machine has thrown me in jail.
The great thing about the word space is that you can put it in front of any other word and make an awesome video game. Space invaders, space caverns, space dungeons, space tree sloth, space ninja, space. That's one they haven't made yet, being invaded by empty space from outer space. It's more of a psychological thing. This is Space Fury. Space Fury sounds serious, and what's equally serious is the front of the packaging, which shows the original arcade machine in a wood grain finish. Space wood grain. That's something they should have put on the space shuttle. It would be like the AMC Eagle of the skies. The space AMC Eagle with a wood grain finish and orange vinyl. I could go on forever, and before I do, a huge thank you to Jeff for sending me this game. It's a lot of fun. Space Fury does not disappoint. This is on the Colecovision and was originally an arcade machine from Sega. I think a few viewers know who Sega is. Space Harrier, anyone? Space Fury plays a lot like Asteroids, but with some very interesting differences that make this game stand out. For starters, it has about the coolest video game bad guy I've ever seen, the dreaded alien commander. Let's read the back of the box. Meet the dreaded alien commander, whose fearsome face appears on the screen challenging you to battle. His scouts zoom in, maneuver your fighter to blast them before they combine into a larger ship and shoot fireballs. Then dock with a mothership to add the firepower necessary to fight it out with waves of cruisers and destroyers. How long can you hold off the furious forces of the alien commander? Then right below that, actual game screen may show slight variation of illustration above. Then what's the point of even showing the illustration at all? That's false advertising. Well, you can see the packaging on our website. Space Fury is very entertaining. You have 4 different difficulty settings, and you can also play a 2-player game. As you may have noticed from watching the gameplay, you start off with a single ship, and then you get through the first wave, which is super easy. And after that, it gets more challenging. You're given a choice at first to choose from 3 different styles of weapon power-ups, which is pretty rare for a game this old school. And check out the graphical glitch that appeared on screen here. Or maybe that's like the space warp something or other. It's like the neutral zone in Yar's Revenge. Space Fury is a tough game. Don't let the simplicity fool you. As far as I can tell, you go through a sequence of choosing the 3 power-ups in order, and the third one that you choose is the one that you stick with for the rest of the game. I think. Don't space quote me on that, but as far as I know, that's how the game is played. I'm not familiar with the arcade machine, but damn, if I see one, I'm playing it. Space Fury in all of its wood-grained glory. What's neat about the game is that you can mix up your gameplay. You can try these different weapons, and they do make a huge difference in how you actually survive each of the levels and fighting the dreaded alien commander. Maybe he's not from space. It does not have the word space in his title. It doesn't say Space Alien Commander. So the dreaded alien commander, maybe he's from Wisconsin. Wherever he's from. He does taunt you depending on how well you've played your game. He space trash talks.
This is Frenzy on the Colecovision, no relation to the Hitchcock film. Why is this game important? Because it's the sequel to Berserk, one of the greatest video games ever created, and Frenzy is even better than Berserk.
not often that a sequel is better than the original. The Empire Strikes Back comes to mind, Evil Dead 2, Aliens. Well, that's a close call between Alien and Aliens, but Frenzy is brilliant and adds complexity to the gameplay as well as keeping the simplicity of what made Berserk so much fun. Created by Stern in 1982, Frenzy saw its way onto the ColecoVision in 1983, and not very many other game systems. This is not available on the Atari 2600 or 5200. You can't get this for the Nintendo. I think the ZX Spectrum got a version of this game. Frenzy is easily worth buying a ColecoVision for. If you've played Berserk, the controls are identical. What's interesting is that I've read in articles that Eugene Jarvis, creator of Robotron 2084, actually tried to improve the controls of Berserk for the Robotron control scheme. Or improve upon the control scheme, I should say. Which is a decision I agree with. In fact, I always find the controls of Berserk and Frenzy to be the most challenging aspect of the game, because if you could fire like Robotron, it actually wouldn't be that difficult. But you can't. You can only fire in the direction that you move. Which makes the game quite challenging, and Frenzy is an appropriate title for this game, especially when you play on the harder difficulty settings on the ColecoVision. The enemies come at you from all directions, they shoot at you, the shots can bounce off the walls. There's some differences between this and Berserk. The walls can't electrocute you for one thing, so you can't run the robots into the walls, but they can shoot each other. There's those really cool sections in the middle of the board every, I think, 4 levels. There's like a factory, there's a giant Evil Otto, and oh boy, you do not want to shoot Evil Otto when the big daddy Evil Otto is watching. He gets very angry and very bad things happen to you. I like the complexity of Frenzy a great deal, and one of the things you immediately need to do when you start a new level is to ensure that you have an escape route. After a certain period of time, Evil Otto will come on screen to kill you, and if you spend all your time trying to shoot the bad guys on screen and haven't found yourself an escape route, it's easy to get cornered and horribly terminated by Evil Otto. Another major difference here is that you can shoot Evil Otto when he comes on screen. If you shoot him 3 times, he goes away. But then he comes back even faster, stronger, and more determined than before. But you do get bonus points for shooting him, so it may be worthwhile to hang out by an exit and just try to blow away Evil Otto a couple times to rack up some points. But watch out, if you shoot him 2 or 3 times, he comes back at lightning speed. The first part of the review I was playing on difficulty setting 1 on the ColecoVision, which I found to be a bit easy, but it's also good to get started if you're just picking up this game and learning to play it. Difficulty settings 2 through 4 are much more challenging. I'm playing at difficulty level 2 for the remainder of the review. Things generally move faster, which of course turns the whole thing into more of a frenzied assault on your senses. If you enjoy Berserk at all, then you owe it to yourself to check out Frenzy. This game adds so much complexity to the already outstanding gameplay of Berserk without ruining it that it's simply a must-play and comes highly recommended. Definitely worth picking up a ColecoVision just for this game. And there's a whole lot of other awesome games on the ColecoVision, so it's not like there's just one good game on the system. You can also find the game cartridge out there online fairly easily today. The simplicity and frenzied action of the gameplay combined with a somewhat frustrating control scheme makes for a truly exhilarating game.